This work is grounded in rigorous, evidence-based historical research conducted by Gandhi Lanka. This is a map of the Indian peninsula. For a millennium, the geopolitical stability of this eastern seaboard was maintained by a decentralized, highly organized military aristocracy, the Patrudu kings. In ancient administrative lexicons, Patrudu translates precisely to a lord or a person worthy of supreme rulership. As regional monarchs, these figures exercised absolute authority over vast territories, commanded their own standing armies, and controlled independent royal treasuries. To track how these monarchs operated, we have to look at the modern Ayuraka community through the lens of onomastics. Onomastics is the scientific study of the history and origin of proper names. By analyzing the hereditary surnames of the Ayuraka, we can read them as fossilized archaeological evidence, directly pointing to specific territorial controls and ancient military ranks. The community identifier itself reveals this lineage. Ayaraka is a fusion of two Telugu terms, Aya, meaning monarch or lord, and Rikam, meaning essence. The word literally translates to a lineage possessing the intrinsic bloodline of a ruler. That ruling class heritage persists in their sociological practices today. During marriage ceremonies, members of the community wear the silver sacred thread, a marker reserved exclusively for ruling and noble lineages. These modern family names function as fossilized, legally binding signatures of ancient sovereign land grants and fortified commands. Between 1264 and 1279 AD, the Eastern Ganga Emperor Bhanudeva I faced a series of invasions from neighboring sultanates. To secure his borders, he decentralized power, appointing 16 elite royal figures to govern the frontier provinces as independent monarchs. When the Suryavamsi Gajapati dynasty took control in 1434 AD, Emperor Kapilendra Deva integrated these 16 Patrudus into his new imperial framework, amplifying their regional administrative and military reach. This chart tracks the Gajapati military hierarchy. At the top sat the central emperor, supported by three branches: the Maha Patrudu, acting as prime minister and supreme commander, the Patrudu, governing as a provincial king, and the Behera, managing royal treasuries and spiritual centers. This decentralized command enabled rapid mobilization. In the north, while the emperor was engaged in the south, General Gopinath Mahapatrudu executed a forced march into Bengal. He crushed the forces of Sultan Muhammad Shah, securing the entire region and earning the emperor the title of Godesvar by 1447 AD. In the south, Hamvira Patrudu executed a series of conquests. By 1454, he occupied the fort of Kondavidu. He then took the Vijayananagar capital of Hampi, forcing its monarch to capitulate, while his commander Tamavupala pushed the borders deep into Arcot and Tanjore. On the western front, forces led by Hamvira annihilated the Bahmani armies at the Battle of Devarakonda in 1458 AD. They subsequently captured the Bahmani capital city of Bidar and eventually took Dara, the capital of Malwa. By distributing command across these 16 pillars, the Gajapati state functioned as a modular military machine, coordinating successful conquests across Bengal, Hampi, and the interior Deccan simultaneously. We know this because rival empires documented it. The Raya Vachakamu, a primary historical text chronicling the administrative accounts of the Vijayananagar Empire, records a strategic admission by Prime Minister Saluva Timurusu. He realized that defeating the Gajapati in open battle was impossible as long as the 16 Patrudu stood united, forcing him to rely on political sabotage instead. The military capacity of a single Patrudu is evident in the historical record. In 1516 AD, the Vijayanagara Emperor Krishnadevaraya required 3 months of siege warfare to take the Kondapalli Hill fort, due to the defense mounted by its fort monarch, Prakaradeshvara Patrudu. This map plots core Ayataka surnames onto Gajapati territories. Patrudu, Mahapatruni, and Bahara map to administrative capitals. The Vadadi node links to the ancient capital of the Matsya kings. A family only adopts a fortified capital's name if they held hereditary administrative rights there. The presence of these exact titles within a modern community demonstrates that their ancestors directed imperial strategy and held independent territorial control at the highest echelons of medieval statecraft. Shifting inland to the Kakatiya Empire of Warangal, we find another foundational piece of the lineage, the Lenka. The term Lenka was an elite royal rank denoting the supreme military commanders who served as the ultimate protectors of King Prataparudra. Their sovereign status is recorded in stone and silver. Gadya coins were the official currency minted under the oversight of these generals to fund their provincial armies. Epigraphs document commanders like Araya Lenka, who held independent taxation rights over 22 villages to maintain his private forces and forts. The title also carried religious authority. The Buddha Lenka served as the chief administrative officer and priest of the Great Jagannath Temple, holding socio-political control over the empire's spiritual center. Today, this history survives in Ayaraka surnames, mapping precisely to the Kakatiya territories. The surname Lenka or Lenka is the direct continuation of the rank. Gobaru points to regional commanders, and Salapaka maps to the sovereign village heads executing royal decrees. When Warrengal fell in 1323, these commanders refused to capitulate. The fossilization of the Lenka title into a modern surname shows how they mobilized outward to the coasts, securing new territories and maintaining their structural military power. The collapse of the Kakatiya Empire created a power vacuum across the Deccan. Displaced warlord lineages established new sovereign domains under the Musunuri Nayaks, an alliance of warrior chiefs who expelled foreign invaders, and later the Kondavidu Reddy emperors. Plotting Ayaraka surnames against coastal Reddy domains reveals deep integration. Surnames like Pediredla and Contrareddy retain the title of king. Others denote toponymic fort and wealth names. Most notably, Kota, Chebrolu, and Kondaviti map directly to the fortified capital cities of the empire. Concurrently, the interior Deccan Plateau saw the rise of the Padmanayaka and Rachela Velamitings. Here, Ayaraka surnames like Biala and Gorli track precisely to the interior plateau, while Koruprolu and Oleti map directly to noble clans holding massive estates like Venkatagiri. The density of these surnames, matching the coordinates of major historical fortresses, demonstrates that the Patrudu lineages functioned as the foundation of post-Kakatiya regional powers. By the 14th century, as the Vijayanagara Empire expanded south, political power shifted toward a class of military commanders governing international trade routes and ports. Ayaraka surnames track this economic shift. Gajula and Gavara denote armed merchant warlords holding forts to protect trade corridors. The Seti suffix, found in names like Somi Seti, Eli Seti, and Gani Seti, identifies the elite financiers of the royal court, who funded the empire's wars in exchange for sovereign rights over trading hubs. This independence carried into the modern era. In 1802, the British instituted the permanent settlement, transforming hereditary warlords into legally recognized landlords, or zamindars. Facing a policy of artificial caste stratification, the ancient Patrudu lineages translated their domains into modern estates. Their martial discipline remained intact long after the empires fell. When Golconda armies targeted their native villages, Ayaraka women strapped on battle armor and inflicted heavy casualties, repelling the invaders and forcing a retreat. The final geographical estates they held are etched into their modern names: Padmanabham, the Godavari estate of Anaparthi, Kaviti on the Kalinga-Andhra border, and the hill forts of Karukonda. The colonial era did not destroy their sovereignty. It forced them to translate ancient military land grants into modern, legally recognized property lines. This is a map of a unified royal continuum. Adopting a toponymic surname like Kota or Vadadi was only possible for a family holding hereditary Nayakara rights over that specific fortress. Nayakara refers to sovereign land grants carrying the legal right to maintain a standing army and collect local taxes. Over centuries of warfare and shifting borders, functional imperial offices transitioned into hereditary identifiers. The titles became the names. The Ayaka Kapatralu are the direct descendants of the elite Lenka commanders who swore oaths to the Kakatiya throne, the sovereign Patro ministers who dictated Eastern Genga strategy, the Reddy fort monarchs of Kondavidu, and the Seti merchant kings of Vijayanagara. The history of the Patrudu kings is a living timeline. Their sovereignty over the eastern seaboard was written in stone inscriptions, stamped on gold coinage, and survives today, encoded in their very names.